Welcome to the Firespitting with BS01 podcast, where we absolutely roast BIONICLE. I'm Swert, and with me are
Dorek.
This is KZN02.
And Spirit.
And we have a special guest with us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Lehari of Red Star Games.
Wonderful. And also one of our Discord mods. In fact, now it's the best time to announce, by the way, during the time of this recording, we are officially 3 days into our public Discord. Does that tell you where this is? You're also one of our patrons. Thank you very much. And by the way, if you want to be a patron, feel free to just go to the links that are on the screen at the end of our videos, or just go to our social media. We've got links everywhere. Anyway, today we decided we really liked. I guess word isn't really liked. We enjoyed. Well, we had fun. We did Kanoka before. Did we really have fun with that?
I mean, I like yelling.
Have a great time.
Oh, this is going to be such a riveting video podcast. Anyway, so today we've decided we're going to, in fact, Spirit, this was your idea. So take the credit / the blame, take your pick. We decided to do Kanoka powers. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to rage about, but we decided to do Kanoka powers. We decided to do Krana, and we also had to throw the Krana-Kal in there.
This is basically the tier list of the reject collectibles.
Yep. Well, so when we did a discussion on the Krana powers, that wasn't a tier list, although I mean it might as well have been, right?
Oh, it was like a good and bad list.
Yeah.
Very true. And so what we decided is, we're going to basically take these for the powers, mind you. These are not for appearances, but not because, let's face it, every Krana looks roughly the same.
No. We're going to do that at some point, too. Some of these are better looking.
All right. I mean, we can talk about them as we go, but we're mostly focusing on the powers. In fact, I put the names down here. I should have put the powers instead, but whatever. We're doing it live.
Yeah, maintenance question, actually. Can you enlarge that? Can you zoom in and enhance? Because I can't read that.
What is this, a tier list for ants?
All right. I could also share all of these photos individually to you guys if you need to. Like, I've got all of them set aside.
Yeah, let me just pull this computer close to my face and maybe it can work.
Yeah, I'm just going to lean in and squint.
I zoomed it in a little further, but that's going to look so good on the stream or, on the video.
Yeah,
anyway,
there's this little known website called BS01 that has the pictures all blown up and large just for you that you can have.
Yeah, but who uses that website? Yeesh.
Nobody.
All right, so we're going to start with the Kanoka. We're just going to go in order, unless would you prefer to start a different order?
That's good with me.
Okay, so I think there's really not much more introduction. The Kanoka, if you were not familiar with those, these were the collectibles that they did back in 2004. These were the big thing back then. And they are glow-in-the-dark plastic discs, much like the bamboo disc of 2001, which if you didn't know what those are, you really need to go to BS01. You need to go to BS1.
Which were ripped off from the Slicer throwing discs. Thank you.
Yes, whatever.
Slicer supremacy!
I'm going to flash that logo.
Robots?
Yeah, in America, which is lame.
Anyway, so let's go ahead and start things off. The eight powers we have to focus on. And now, mind you, we don't really care about which Koros they're from, but I should also bring those up as a factor. We'll talk about that at some point.
Metro.
Where each Metro, whatever. Each Metro has their own individual, separate power from each other. So, for example, the top Metro discs, they were stronger and they could knock obstacles out of the way. The God Metro discs over here could change direction mid-air according to the user's thoughts.
Yeah, well, first thing I got to say is I think it's really, really funny that Lego had to print that this just refers to their usage in the story. Like, they had to print a disclaimer. The discs don't actually work like this in real life.
I remember that. I remember that back in the day.
Oh boy.
In Po Metro, if you recall, they homed in on other Kanoka and deflected them from their course. Again, they had to probably print that as this is in story only.
They're filthy Alkalini cheaters is what's going on here.
In the Kometru, they dodged obstacles to get to their target. Lee Metru had the short end of the stick, really. They just flew farther.
Sometimes boring works.
Right. And Onu Metru returned to the thrower, diverted from the course. So Onu Metru confirmed to be Australia.
Wow,
Under.
wow.
That's racist.
How?
I don't know.
Okay, so how does Kanoka work? Like it's supposed to be when they hit something, they activate their power, right?
Right, but they have to be shot at a very specific speed out of a launcher. You can't just throw it.
And it's a little unclear whether or not there is an arming velocity or an arming distance, but at the bare minimum, there appears to be a velocity.
Right.
Well, there must be a distance to it, because otherwise, like, how would the Tametru ones work? If they're like they break through obstacles, surely they just activate on the obstacles.
I believe it's implied that they simply activate, like when they're shot. So, like,
but I
they're
mean,
automatically
like
activated.
from a physics perspective, like if something can knock the obstacle out of the way, what does that? Doesn't that mean it just has more force behind it?
I assume, at that point, I would say, yeah, it has a denser mass to it. That's probably the easiest way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my understanding.
Yeah, and one other thing, like about these, how these Kanoka discs activate. Keep in mind, there's something called disc surfing, where Matoran use their discs to, surf in the chutes, and if they somehow activate while they're using them, that would be very inconvenient.
Quite inconvenient.
How does that work? Like, do they stand on the launcher, or who launches it?
So no, it's not. It's not. It's like
taking
bodyboarding.
it. Yeah, it's like lava surfing or just like snowboarding, surfboarding, that sort of thing. You're actually putting it
Bodyboarding,
under
yeah.
Yeah. So it's not so much that it's launched. So I think it might have to do with relative velocity. So even if it is moving at what you would consider to be its arming velocity in the chutes, if the Matoran that's touching it is moving, concurrently along the same velocity and vector, then it's not going to activate on the Matoran.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right.
It's
well,
sort
we're
of like knocking over a glass of water onto something else. If you move the entire room with the glass of water and gravity remains constant throughout, then nothing actually happens.
right.
Also, it's illegal, and I have reported you all to the Vaki.
Oh, we should talk about Vaki staff powers at some point too, along with other weapons in a tier list. Anyway, speaking of tier lists, we've got one in front of us, so let's go ahead and start popping together. The first one here, does everybody have the page pulled up? I linked for Kanoka.
I got
Can
it
you
open.
pull it up? So who wants to read the first one? I'll read the first one. The reconstituting at random disc. That is the first power listed on the board. So it temporarily scrambles the molecules of a target, resulting in a new and unpredictable shape with either positive or negative changes. Apparently the scope of which is tied to the power level of the disc. So for example, the Great Disc would have the most powerful effect. It could also affect both living and non-living targets.
Potentially changing you into a Tatarak.
And at that point, I would put it at a C.
Well, hang on. What are we rating this on? Like effectiveness in battle?
I would just say effective power. Yeah.
That doesn't.
Okay. I'd say higher than C, because like you could, like realistically, if it's truly random, you're not going to turn into anything alive. You're just going to turn into like a blob. So that's like an instant win, in my opinion. Unless like it's probably like a 1% chance that you're actually turned into anything good. So maybe A, I would say. If anyone wants to argue with that, I'll accept any arguments.
The main thing with combat applications specifically is that you want consistency in most things. Yeah, it can shut down an incredibly dangerous encounter in theory, but it's you might transform Kraka into a Tatarak or into the Knohi Dragon or some other crazy nonsense that just makes everything worse. I wouldn't and don't recommend that any of my players use them whenever they have the chance.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's the likelihood that you transform into something useful. Like, what is that probability? I mean, I would agree with A. I think the fact that you are much more likely to do something that somehow incapacitates you, because it's a lot easier to incapacitate someone than it is to strengthen them. So
I could live with an A, if everybody else is agreeing with that. It is very useful in battle. It's not so useful for non-battle. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Industrial.
who
yeah,
made this?
sure.
Industrial.
What was the point of making something that can just randomly change something?
Now that
I
I
don't
think,
have an answer.
It's more of a
now that I think about it, like this power, it kind of describes energized protodermis, except it's less to do with destiny and just more random.
So what you're
Yep.
saying is this is the laziest disc in all time. It literally just does
Yeah.
what it does. It's literally just copying energized
Is it-
protodermis.
Made out of liquid, which is different than molten, which is also impossible.
we would be here all night if I explained what me and my team have come up with on those particular ends. But functionally, it's what Metro Nui has figured out how to do with liquid protodermis to turn them into usable power forms. So reconstitute random is probably the least, to say it in a much more complicated and convoluted way, reconstitute random is a much less stable power form than everything else here. So it can change you into whatever it is it feels like, or whatever it is the cosmic background radiation dictates you become.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and move on because that is way too much. Let's move on to the freeze. This who wants to cover that one? I mean, it's pretty obvious what it does, but
I'll take care of that one. Freezes. Covers target in a thick coating of solid ice.
so that is, generally speaking, not what I anticipated it should be when I first heard about the power. In that, when you think of something freezing, you're literally thinking about freezing the core temperature. But instead, it's more like just an elemental version of a stasis field. That's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna chalk that up to too many cooks in the kitchen. That's my working theory for Metro Nui, and why it doesn't make any sense. Is that someone came up with all the powers and the lore, and then Greg tried to write off of that, but they're like, I don't know, like some translation errors or just miscommunications. So I think freeze originally makes more sense as it just stops whatever is moving, just based on like what the other powers do. Similar to I think I said this in a previous episode of in Metro Nui they use stone tablets, and I think that's a mistake because we see them in the movie using actual computer tablets, and they're robots living in a futuristic utopian city. Why would they use stone tablets? Doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense. All right, I've gone ahead and just chucked it into B for now because it still has some practical use, but it's kind of worthless.
It's a good combat disc.
It is
It
good
is-
combat disc, but
it
it's
is.
otherwise kind of worthless because all it does is it covers something in a thick coating of ice. That there are only so many advantages to doing that. Plus, you'd still have to hit somebody with it.
I mean, it can be used in the same way that that's levitation and increased weight discs, or whatever it is those are that make the blade work in foundries, for example. If you need to blast cool something, then why try to use some type of liquid nitrogen equivalent whenever you can just bang it with frisbees?
Well, and hang on, now I'm realizing that the existence of the freeze disk is a problem because we know that elemental disks also exist. So how would a freeze disk be different than an ice disk?
Aha.
I also have
Good
an essay
question.
on this. I have an essay on this, but I'm not going to get too terribly deep into it. They are, to summarize, they are distinct things. One of them relies on an equivalent of pure elemental energy. Freeze. So Kanoka, from the history of Kanoka, and this is just a straight up canon thing. This is not any RSG fabrications. Were developed in Metro Nui, were rediscovered in Metro Nui. Were reverse engineered, whatever it was, because they're an old technology. About 4,000 years to 12,000 years, we're not 100% sure, the sources differ, in Kometru by Kometru scientists. So one of the things that we think that they might have done is gone out of their way to specifically preserve a makes things cold power in the base Metru 8 that we use. So they are two different things. They just achieve the same ends through different means, and a pure ice disc is more versatile.
Okay, that seems fair. But does anybody have any objections with it being in the B tier for now?
I think that's fine. Like it's sorry, go ahead.
If there was a B+, I would say that, because it is an aggressively consistent combat disc if we're basing it off of combat prowess, but I can live.
we don't really have a basis as to what it should or should not be. I personally think we should look at all the factors of what you would use it for. For example, what are the properties of using it in, say, a construction method? Like, is it useful for, like, say, holding down like a shoot joint or something? You see what I'm saying?
Well, if that's the case, then I think that reconstituted random means go all the way the hell down to B or D.
Oh,
sorry.
I would agree with that one, but
because like freeze, it has uses both to keep Kometru cold and to make things happen in Tometru, because sometimes you just need to rapidly cool stuff.
absolutely.
Is my line of logic here. So
We can always come back and readjust these as we go.
Okay.
All right. So let's look at weaken. Who would like to cover that one?
I got it. Weaken reduces the strength of a living or non-living target. Can be used to bring down structures. The intensity and duration of the weaken effect is tied to the power level of the disc.
Right. So, for example, the Pometru disc here is the great disc, so that would be the strongest method. I would assume that would probably put somebody in a coma at that point.
Did that intensity and duration bit really need to be said? I mean, doesn't that apply to all of the discs?
You would think, but some of them are.
Some are permanent.
That's right. I guess reconstitutes at random is permanent. I just feel like freezes. Like
No, mercifully, reconstituted random is not permanent. Thank God.
Right.
But enlarge and shrink are.
Yeah, shrinking and enlarging is permanent.
wait, reconstitutes at random is not permanent.
Correct.
Correct.
You-
Then how do we explain
you-
the that weird Rahi that's in the archives?
Instant stasis.
No, not that. Not the stasis one. The other one.
Are you
It's a
talking about
room.
Crocker?
The room. Yeah, the one that's the room. Wasn't that theorized to have some sort of? Well, I guess theorized.
Yeah, see,
Puts it out.
there's
yeah,
the comment.
yeah.
All right.
Dang.
Based
Legal
on
words.
what we're saying, I'm going to go ahead and say A as well for that one. And I'm hoping that trailing effect is not being recorded. But if it is, oh boy.
Here's hoping that it is not, but I would actually go insofar as to call it the S tier combat disc, and it's also got massive industrial potential.
I suppose.
Oh, weekends. Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'd give weekends. Maybe not S, maybe A, but I'm all right with S.
S minus A plus. If
Well, I feel for weaken like it's not a finishing move. Like you have to do a 1-2. Like first you hit them with weaken, then you hit them with something else.
Well, but I mean, so many of these discs aren't actually. I mean, when we say combat, like a lot of this is actually like distraction, so I can run away. Like this isn't winning a fight. This is temporarily doing something so that you can either run away or, if you're stronger, I guess, deliver a finishing blow.
We have to consider who is actually using these Kanoka in the first place. It's the Matoran.
Right.
And also
Vakama.
Well, Vakama.
He just used a fire disc mostly.
Vakama was basically just a tall Matoran for most of his career. Fight me.
And they became a slightly shorter Matoran.
No, I'm willing to say that he is just Turaga. He grew into it well. He was just not a great Tella.
Well, I would say he's a pretty tall Turaga at that point, honestly.
Fair. But
but either way.
So I think we're kind of split. I know I'm for S. Do we have more A's, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I'm voting A.
I would say A.
Okay.
It is useful, but I'm putting it above the reconstituted random at that point.
We can revisit it. I'd vote S just based on everything else, thinking ahead. But we'll come back.
Yeah.
I'll put it up for S for now, just so we have a basis. We can always come back and fix it.
Okay.
All right, next. Who wants to cover the next one?
I'll do it.
All right.
Removes poison. Cures the effects of toxic substances, such as poison, which links to a poison page, or venom, by erasing their presence in a target.
Or other toxic substances like internet comments.
Oh, if that's the case. That's true.
Wait, if I used it on myself, could it cure my depression?
This got real really quick.
Got really real. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a B tier because it's not really useful for anything other than
No, it's an F tier. There's no poison in Bionicle.
That is absolutely.
There's the Rakshia poison, and that's it.
No, there's a whole bunch of...
No. There's also...
Oh, yeah, the poison link is literally Larak. It links to the Rakshi page.
Yeah, well, there's also the what is it? The Karzani plant had a poison of some type too.
Yeah, but this one couldn't do that because otherwise they wouldn't need the energized protodermis or whatever.
The one opportunity to use it in the story, they don't do it.
A treatment versus an actual cure are two different things.
I'll tell you what, it does still have some use, so I'm going to go ahead and put it at D.
I can live with D. I was going to say C originally.
Well, for anyone who cares, here's some minutia.
And also Hordeca venom, it doesn't work on that clearly, so I don't know why we say venom.
It's a venom, it's a venom, not a poison.
That's true. They're different.
It says poison and venom on the page, so
it has toxic substances. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we'll have to revise. We're gonna have to revise that at some point.
It was also made by Makuta, who can work around probably a lot of the universal mechanics around that. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
We'll leave it at D for now, and we can always revise it later.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So trivia quiz. What is the one canonical use of the remove poison Kanoka?
I'm listening.
It is in the Dweller report where Taragaduma uses it to chip the pavement. Because that's how useless it is.
Bro.
Did you actually do it that way?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
I think the next two kind of go hand in hand, so wherever they go, I think they'll go together. Enlarging and shrinking. Obviously, I think you can figure out which one is which. And what
there's one specific weird note about both of these that threw me for a loop when first writing stuff about them. That the power level determines how fast you grow or shrink, which apparently matters to some degree. We have no idea what that range is actually like. All we know is what the result of the Pakui and the Mask of Growth do. But just as a quick note on that part, because that's not something that's immediately obvious.
Well, so the one thing I want to know about these two is, like, do they cancel each other out? Like, if you're shot with an enlarged disc of the exact same power level as a shrink disc, do you then keep growing, or does it cancel it out? Does it stop you from shrinking further, or does it grow, let you return to your original thing, and then do you keep growing past that? How do they work together?
Or does it cancel each other out on the sides of, like, your torso gets bigger and your legs get shorter?
Oh,
that is not how that would work. No, maximum.
Either way, I think they're bog standard. I'm going to go ahead and put them in C.
Yeah, that works. But to answer the question, from what I am to understand at this point, they would pretty much cancel one another out without any change in size.
Okay. So if I was hit with a shrink disc and I shrank a foot, and then I was hit with an enlarged disc of the same power level, would I get back to my original size, or would I just stay at a foot shorter?
You would probably return to your original size.
Okay. Or would I need to, be hit with another enlarged disc and then hit with another shrink disc? So you need like 4 discs total to get back to your original.
I'm going to tell you what. Are you familiar with how a piano works?
Yeah, kind of.
So you know how whenever you strike a key, it throws a little hammer down on the chords. So imagine a piano that has Kanoka of shrink and enlarge for those little hammers. That's how we experiment, and that's how we find out exactly how it's going to work.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, I'm okay with this.
Look, cool. I think one thing we can all agree on is if you're hit by an enlarged disc and a shrink disc, if symptoms persist after 4 hours, seek medical attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we are moving on. So, regeneration. Now, this is interesting. This is a very interesting one. It says it repairs a structure or a piece of equipment, but does not work on living targets.
Correct. Healing is a different function.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I put it down.
What are you doing? No, it's massively useful. Like it's not. It's not amazing for combat, but 1, it keeps your gear in good shape, and 2, if there's any collateral damage caused by, say, weakened disc or blowing something up, then it's gonna handle that like nobody's business. It's literally what Duma was doing for half of his time down in Metro Nui. Whenever the
but he was using his mask, not the Kanoka.
It's the mask of this, though, and he could also be supplementing his ability to concentrate and use that mask with these discs.
Does this work on inorganic armor?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the only thing it works on, right?
All right.
That and buildings and stuff.
I'll put it up on B. I'll put it
I think
on
that's-
A
That's
if not
reasonable.
S. A if not S.
I'd accept a higher tier.
I can go with A.
All right, we'll leave it at A.
You know,
I'm
the-
fine with A.
Yeah, the weird thing is that I remember in the Maze of Shadows video game is that the regeneration disc is actually used to heal the player's Toa characters. So
It is?
yes, it is.
Oh man,
If
we
you-
might have a retcon on our hands.
No, remember this is a video game, so usually video games are non-canon,
Sometimes.
and you know.
I'll allow it. All right, last Kanoka disc, and we can move on to the real meat of this podcast. We have the teleport disc. Can anybody guess what the teleport disc does?
I just want to say it was a rude thing to say about the Kanoka discs.
What's that?
That they're not the meat of the story.
They're really not. If you think about
No,
it,
I know, I'm kidding.
we
They
had
never get
2
used.
years worth of 1.5 years
1
worth
year.
of Prana. Anyway, teleport can cause the target to dematerialize and rematerialize in a random location. Range of teleportation is tied to the power level of the disc. So, for example, the Lee Metro disc would basically have the highest possible range. But again, random. So,
The
In
Lee Metric
combat-
is not.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like, you know, with the randomness combined with the range of teleportation, I feel like that gives you the most kind of like customizable options. Like, because obviously, if you hit it with a level 9 or whatever, you know, they're gonna go way the heck out there, and you don't know where. But like, you can kind of concentrate this more. So I'd give it an A.
all right, I would counterpoint if you would be allowed to select where the person or the target goes. I would definitely put it S tier.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, with the lower levels, you can kind of predict to a certain extent where it's going to go.
I
right.
agree with B, mostly because even if you do have a little bit of an idea of where the teleporter winds up going, it still is inconsistent, and that can make or break some plans sometimes.
But besides, if it was something you could select where it would go, we would never have airships. We wouldn't have any transports.
No, but
You just
that's what I'm
strike
saying.
things
Like, you
with
know,
a
you
teleport.
can either, you know, move something to relative safety, or you can send something way the heck out there and you don't know or care where it goes. That's why I think it's
Very
great for
true.
combat.
Very true. All right, now we are on to... These are going to be the fun ones, because I don't think everybody remembers just how unique the Krana are.
That's the most diplomatic thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. Some of these are awful.
Some of them are pretty awful, I won't lie. Having said that, this is still my year. I joined BIONICLE as a fan in like 2002 officially. So these are my
Oh, you weren't an OG fan? Oh, well, it's okay.
I knew of the characters in 01.
Sure.
I got the catalog. I just
Okay.
didn't buy any sets until I finally got to 02.
Sure.
And that's when I started collecting the comics properly. I actually had to go back and get 1 through 3. And then I also got a few extra. Anyway, that's
If
off
you say
topic.
so.
Hey everyone, this guy's a phony.
So I have these not in power order or listing on our website, but as alphabetical. So we'll have to
You
kind of
monster.
adjust. Hey, come on.
No, I got to go with Swert on this one. Alphabetical.
Alphabetical
so-
is a travesty. Fine.
All right.
Get
we'll
out.
start with the Krana bow. Now, again, I should mention colors are only for like purposes of just getting it out there and making it look pretty. They're not reflective of anything whatsoever. Each Krana identical to each other in the 6 breeds.
And they can actually be swapped out no matter what the chassis is, funnily enough.
Oh,
And
interesting.
And they change colors to reflect whether or not they are active or dormant, or whatever their chassis happens to be. So if you have a dormant Tannock, whatever, which are usually yellow, put in a Ponrock chassis, it'll turn the color of green that Ponrock have.
Oh,
Is
interesting.
that how it works? I thought it was only from the Va to the, you know, their corresponding Bora. I didn't realize you could switch from.
You apparently can.
Oh, interesting.
I
Per
was not aware.
word of the Greg one. Yep.
Oh,
So
word of
surely the
Greg,
Toa
that would do it.
could have saved a lot of time by not.
Collecting
They-
one for each
They
one.
could have just iced an entire squad and been fine, but yeah.
Oh god. Okay, we'll start with the bow. This is the Krana Sentinel has infrared vision. It can see in the dark. The Krana serve as nighttime guards as well as guides in dark caves. So very useful for Nuvok, especially. Well, not even Nuvok at that point because they can already see in the dark, I imagine.
I do not know that is necessarily a quality of that chassis. Let me check.
Please do. Any other qualities of it? I mean, they can see in the dark. That's always useful to a degree, but it's not as useful as, say, X-ray vision. I'm going to go ahead and put this in at the C tier as our baseline Krana. We could always adjust it as we go.
So this instantly power creeps the Ruru. Very rude.
Exactly. The Ruru sucks. I thought we established that with our last one.
Yeah, but that's because we decided
but this has
that
infrared too.
Solar flare.
Yes, of course.
Y'all can bite me on that one. Praise Ruru. I would say, based on the limitations of IR night vision specifically, it is actually a little bit worse than I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with the specific connotations of that might think.
All right, well,
D or F, because if everything is a power here, a power, I don't think we're going to get worse than this.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's literally just infrared. So, like, if nobody else is around, you're just going to be banging into the walls and crap.
Yeah, there's no UV. There's
all right.
no UV.
I'll just go ahead and put it at F. It's fine.
Okay, I confirmed. Let's see. Nuvok, they don't have night vision, but that is a quality that the Nuvok Va has.
Yes, but they're also... I don't know why they wouldn't. It's a little bit stupid that they don't, but the Nuvok Va are designed to not have to rely on Krana and also find large numbers of Nuvok who may be laying around in the dark.
That kind of makes a little sense. Either way. Let's move on to the Ka.
Ka-CA or Ka-XA? Because that's...
CA.
Okay. Self-defense. So this is just a demi-how.
It's a demi-how, so it shields itself from others and others from attack. So actually, no, it's like a demi-how Nuva at that point.
I would say A, if not S, because that is pretty universally
good.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I can give it an A.
It kind of looks like a how. I just realized.
It really does.
I guarantee that was deliberate.
That is interesting. Yeah. I never noticed that before.
Wow.
How did it take so long to realize this?
Get out.
And thank you for listening to this episode.
I will beat you with my shoes.
All right. I agree with the A. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'm wondering, does it have the same weakness as the how? Like, ambushes. It's weak to ambushes too.
It does not say if it does or not.
So, given the fact that it can shield potentially an entire squad, I would imagine that there is a setup time, quote unquote, in the same way that the how has. So I would say probably.
Okay.
And that's how I do intend to write it. So.
Yes, I would say go ahead and leave it at A tier at this point. That would be best.
Yeah,
because it is still very, very useful. It's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that bubble shields are useful in Halo.
Yes. Obviously, I would imagine the side effect might be that you can't move with it. It's like holding up an actual shield. Either you're limited on your speed or you just can't move. That would be the way to balance it out. But that's if I were to write it myself as like a Borak squad.
Well, we never...
Oh, we lost.
Oh no, KZ. Where'd he go?
Oh no. Well, I got his recording and he'll be back shortly, I'm sure.
KZ do am the dead.
Anyway. Yeah. I think that's probably the right one. Let's move on to the Ja. Oh.
Welcome back, KZN.
Sorry about that. I got a call, so I didn't want to get talk. Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
it's appreciated. All right.
There's a deafened mute feature, just as a heads up.
Well, either way. So
honestly, like with that mute feature, I often end up like hitting the deafen feature instead. So like my reflex is just to cut the call out entirely.
Yeah, I hear you.
Lest I get it wrong.
Well, def automatically activates mute normally.
Does it?
Yes.
Yes.
It used to not. I don't know. I hate Discord. Discord's dumb.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we just opened up our public Discord. All right.
Which is great, and you should definitely give us money to access it.
It's free.
It is?
Yes.
First.
All right. So the Krana, or Ja, however you want to pronounce that.
Yeah.
Ja. All right, I'll go with the Spanish pronunciation. The ha. This is the radar. Can use radar sense to detect distant obstacles in the Swert's path. Already, I'm going to put it above the bow because that is
it is
much use more.
It is a much better version of the bow, but the thing is that we don't have any idea what the return actually looks like whenever a radar mission is put out.
Fair.
The fidelity of it would make me put it potentially all the way up to S, depending on how good it is. But given that these are they probably work better in concert with each other.
I'd also be curious as to like the range up and down as well. Like, is it only on a flat plane, or can you sense underground beings? Can you sense flying beings?
You'd have to have LiDAR to do underground stuff, I think.
Well, sonar also technically works. You just need a special adapter for it. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, but this is obviously not the sonar. This is radar. I suppose, depending on how radio waves work in the Bionicle universe, which I don't even want to get into the physics.
Assume all science is the same unless it's stated otherwise.
That's a fair point. Then that being the case, it would only work in the path in front of you. It would not work underground, so it's not very good for tunneling. And it would work above, or it would work in the sky to a degree, but I think maybe they'd have to be pointing that way. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, three-dimensional radar works off of usually having multiple emitters and much more complicated reconstruction or thing on the back end, which would potentially be something you could make a Krana out of, but I don't know that that's what this is implying.
I think, given the choices, it's good to have. Actually, I would put it at B myself, personally. It's still much more useful to have somebody that can sense ahead of you. I wouldn't say it's any better than having somebody that could shield everybody around you, but I would say having something to be able to sense in the dark or in a far enough distance through, like, say,
I think it straddles C and D, honestly.
Yeah,
C
I agree
probably
with
is okay,
all
right. Depending on how bad it is and how easy it is to baffle is what I would, make that final determination on.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the Sioux.
S tier.
Really?
It's the Lehari. The Pakari is
the Krana of lawyers. The Sioux.
So sorry to actually explain what it is, because I just sort of buzzard on that one. Krana Sioux is the Krana for workers. It enhances your strength, and it's just the Krana Pakari, basically.
And apparently they're also very selective that they only inhabit the strongest of Borak, which that's a whole topic in itself.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
Because I mean, aren't all of the Borak units like identical? I mean, I guess maybe of the Avatar that they came from. I don't know. That was weird.
What is this bee nonsense?
If it only inhabits certain Borak, then I'm not going to say it's S tier. If it's very selective about where it wants to go.
I think that's fake news.
I think that's fake news too, honestly.
Well, I mean, it's what it says on the page. Citation needed.
Like
it's probably in the comics. Let's be honest.
It definitely sounds like it definitely sounds like that. It could just be it only restricts itself to specific chassis. It could It could want to say, oh yeah, no, yeah, some Krana Sioux very very rarely might be in like a Galak or a Tanok or something, but the majority of them are in Panrak or Nuvok.
Right. I've gone ahead and put it ahead of the Ka on the A tier for now. We can reverse. Okay. We can come back and look at it for S tier later. Let's look at the other four. We're halfway there. If there's none others that will go up ahead of the Sioux, I might consider putting it back up higher.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Next up is the Vu. Now, this is the one that everybody's more familiar with because of the Flash animations.
It's the only one I know.
Yes. No, there is a second one that we could talk about briefly. It'll be the last one. This one is, of course, the Surveyors. This is granting the Borak limited flight.
Okay, but if you have radar, isn't that enough surveying? I mean, or does that imply that the radar is, in fact, easy to fool?
Well, the radar is the scout, not the same as the Surveyor.
Really? We're splitting hairs on that? Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying
splitting hairs on that one. Cool game.
So, in terms of the limitations of radar, if you can only do radar readings from the ground, it's going to take much longer to be able to get a good lay of the land compared to just flying over and getting a good bird's eye view of everything. So it's a faster method of getting an imprecise lay of the land versus a more precise one potentially using the radar.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and say that it's
B
tier.
Yeah. I'm
Because
pretty
of the
happy with that.
limited flight aspect of it.
Yeah, but I mean, but limited. I don't know. I'd say C, but whatever. It's fine.
But did you not see how it destroys lily pad houses?
I would say turning your entire body into a flying battering ram is still a more impressive use than just pinging something off of somebody with your head, like radar style. I think it's more impressive.
This is
All right,
what the kids. This is what the kids were doing with all those Levok a couple years ago.
Do we want to move up the Su and Ka to let Vu be A tier?
Not yet.
Not yet. We're not there yet. All right. Now we're looking at the Za.
Cha.
As compared to
Za, Sha, Cha. How is it pronounced?
the Za as compared to the Za. The
So I use the Cyrillic version of all this and just say Sha.
Yeah, I mean that's fine with me.
It keeps it more distinct than Za versus
Than saying Za and Ksa.
Unless you're just supposed to read out the letters, in which case Bo is actually supposed to be read B-O. You're the B-O, Krana.
But this doesn't enhance your smell.
That's why he's got the little pipes on him.
Yes, naturally.
Anyway, so the Za, this is obviously, they are the ones that form the complex plans. They're the ones that can, like, think.
I don't think it gets much more combat utility than coming up with a combat plan, frankly.
Yeah, but
a subswarm can't function without one of these.
But as far as natural power goes, I'm putting it in D.
Like I can see that, and I could also see like putting it in S tier because we just don't know how good it is at strategy.
Right. Well, obviously not that good because 6 Toa were able to defeat an entire swarm.
Right.
And they had hundreds.
Exactly. And like with, in a normal day, like how much direction do the Bowrock really need? Can't you just let them bounce around and destroy everything? Or do you, is this how they form a line and burn the forest down?
I think it might have to do more with making sure that the swarm is organized and not tripping over itself and accidentally toppling mountains from one swarmlet onto another.
Yeah.
Which, as I say that out loud and thinking about it, it's probably D tier because it's not. It's a very boring power and it's very much not front lines. It's you're a sub Barag and that's about all you get.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you're looking at a commander, which is what this is, it's commander. Not many people would look at a Borak and just say, "Oh, look, that's clearly the commander." No, they're going to sit there and say, "Oh, look, it's Borak." It doesn't really matter. It's a fancy title. Just the fact that they can think is nice, but they're still taking the orders from the Barag to begin with. And I'm sorry,
they can't do a damn.
And I'm sorry, they're complex plants. Clean it all. It must be cleaned. Who did we lose?
Looks like we lost Dorek. Now he's back.
He's back.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
It's fine. All right.
Oh god, artifacting.
Yeah, it's fine. I've done worse.
Yo.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the yo.
Yo.
This is the mole. Grants the Borak the ability to tunnel through almost any substance on Matanui. I'm putting it B.
If you're what are they? A Nuvok or a Parak? Is this thing like worthless for you?
That's a good question.
So, like, when we say tunnel, like, is this the power of the shields? Because I mean, the shields already have their own powers. So, like, what does it mean when it says tunnel? Does this mean if it's in a Tonic, the Tonic can then go underground?
Essentially, yeah. It would allow them to actually start tunneling into the ground.
I think there's also an awareness element of this because it goes back to that whole not dropping mountains on top of your buddies thing. Like it tells you where the safest place is to effectively tunnel, maybe. I think I remember that being a part of it back in the day, but I might be misremembering.
Possibly.
But it's good. It's just not really like, it's not flashy.
It's more unilateral than, like, say, the Ja. Yeah. So that's why I would put it at B. But I wouldn't put it anywhere near A or S. In fact, at some point, yes, we will talk about one of those two becoming S tier.
I'd give it an A. I feel like an A is a thing.
You would put it at A?
On the converse, I could say C, if I'm being honest, because it is.
That tells me we're going to have to leave it at B. Because if we're getting polarizing opinions, we might as well. Unless anybody wants to break a tiebreaker.
I'm happy with it being a B.
Okay. And finally, this is, honestly, I chose this color especially because this is the most iconic Krana on the chart, especially this color. This is Krana-Kal. This is the squad leader. This is the one that allows for telepathy and limited mind reading.
I would
it allows
say
you
all
to
the way up
communicate
to
telepathically with and read the minds of other Krana and beings.
I would say S.
But I mean, like, how?
Like, yeah, how much are you reading? How quickly?
Yeah. Well, and again, like, I wonder why these things exist in the first place. Like, obviously, they just need cool powers for the story or whatever. But, like, there wasn't really planned to be much in the way of, like, resistance for the Borok. So, like, really, how powerful can it be? How useful is it?
Well, I mean, clearly it can operate at conversational speeds because, I mean, otherwise the majority of the encounters with the Zod don't work.
Right. Oops.
But in terms of like the telepathy and mind reading element to other beings is a secondary function of the fact that it acts as the link between the swarm commanders and the actual Borok out there on the ground, which is a very important part of large scale operations like the Borok conduct. Because it would be incredibly mentally taxing if the Cha, the XAs, were to try to psionically organize the entire swarm just from wherever it is they happen to be. The Zaz go out with groups of 8, 12, 30, however many, and conduct the actual hands-on work of destroying the island.
Right, but I mean, what that tells me is that the Shah is not that powerful. Which I mean, we have it at a D tier, so I guess that makes sense. But like, the fact that they need these chains of command tell me that these things aren't really that powerful in the first place.
I mean, they are blobs of meat that specifically grant powers to roly-poly robots. They're not exactly the peak of the mountain of psionic capability.
This is very true. I'm personally okay with this as is, but let's go back and look at the Sue before we move on to the call. Being that it does possess colossal strength, is it more powerful than the Za?
Yes.
Would you be okay with that?
I would kind of say so, because like a single Borok with a Krana-Su in it, regardless of whether or not it's being supported by the rest of the squad, is going to be significantly more dangerous than potentially an entire squad without Sus, depending on exactly what you're trying to do.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
I think so. Honestly, is there justification for moving the VU up to A, or it should stay at B?
So the fact that it says limited flight, and the fact that 01 to 03 kind of had weird, only things with wings can fly, like fly, or you have to do this weird power switch shenanigan thing to be able to make the Miro actually function as a discount Kaden. It makes me think that it's not amazingly powerful, despite the fact that you can float menacingly.
You know what's even more interesting, just commenting out loud, none of the Krana grant speed in this case. You would think that would be one of the more useful things to have. Certainly more useful than, say, infrared vision.
That should definitely just be a thing that the chassis can do, but yeah.
Well, either way.
I mean, at least the Nuvok ones.
Yeah. All right, I think we're okay with this one. Let's move on to the last group. This is the one that gets really intricate, and it's going to take some time for us to, like, actually look at. I say intricate. First and foremost, bow call.
D.
Really?
It's
You put it in B.
D.
Oh, D. Okay.
Yeah.
What does it do?
It is. It's infrared and X-ray vision, which is a slightly expanded.
It allows the Borak call to see in the dark and through almost any substance except the tunnels and domes of the Matoran universe. So, like, it can't see through the surface or like the surface level of the Great Spirit robot.
Or actually, I guess if it does have the penetrating vision, X-ray vision type thing the Yakaku has, maybe as high as
I guess
C,
you could.
but-
I could see C being an argument.
See,
that is because that is the penetrating vision for the Akaku is
right.
Okay.
That's actually, I mean, it's on par with what we were talking about with the Ja,
yeah.
because obviously that is being the radar. This is essentially radar, but better because you can actually see what you're saying.
Are we comparing the Krana-Kal to the regular Krana? Or
I
just to
wouldn't put them.
themselves?
I would compare them to themselves, but we're just putting them on the tier at the same time.
So,
But if
some
we
of
wanna
them are
move-
just direct upgrades.
Yeah, but some of them are a little different.
Very true. All right, so let's look at
This is such a minor change. Like it's like.
Oh, that
could
is
you
the
not-
minor change. Yes, that's the minor change. We're getting into the real changes here in a minute.
Call. Ooh.
Yeah. The call.
Caw.
Oh yeah, I thought about making that joke too. These Krana have a mental link with the Barag and is able to sense their presence in order to locate them.
Okay,
Sucks.
so this
Which, yeah, is. I mean, it's useful for that very specific thing, but you know,
it suits their mission profile very specifically, but I don't
Yeah.
know that it's actually a cool power on its own.
no, it's not.
It's the Elda of Krana.
Yep.
Oh hey, I don't like that.
Well,
I acknowledge
if that's the
it,
case,
but
where did we put the Elda on our list? Does anybody remember?
I recall yelling about it. It should have been F.
I believe we.
I think we
talked
ended
about
up with D.
F. Yeah, I
so
think we ended up.
if the call operated while the Balrog were actually capable of directing the swarms, it would be an amazing mask. Or an amazing Krana, sorry. Because having the call basically acting directly as agents of the Balrog out there on whatever it is they need to do, that's actually pretty good. Because that basically says that the call squad is just the Balrog reaching out and touching you and being very, very fucking scary.
Right.
Very, very scary.
But I mean, it also, unlike the other ones which specify the ability to communicate with the swarm, it doesn't say that the Cacao can communicate with the swarm. So it might just be a one-way kind of thing.
Right. I actually just looked up our list. We did dump it into F.
Yes.
The Elda. So we could dump this into F. I'm okay with that.
Success.
Yeah, fair.
Because
Well,
it only has a very specific purpose. It only seeks out the Barag, which if they're not in, I mean, assuming that the call had been sent out, they are clearly in danger. That's fine. But that's a very specific Krana to have. A very specific Krana.
And that's such a downgrade from like
It
unlimited.
is
shielding.
such a, yeah. It is such a downgrade from the shielding. All right, now we're on to the Ya. This is the Tracker. Radar and enhanced, which by the way, we apparently spelled, did we spell that wrong on the, or did we spell it a different way? Anyway, enhanced senses. It can
You did-
use radar sense to detect distant objects. It also magnifies Borakal's senses, particularly smell and hearing, which opens up a whole can of
That is
worms.
misspelled. It says enchanced.
Enchanced.
That is
Cool.
that is a 15-year-old typo.
How long has that been there?
Oh my god.
I'm just gonna remove it now.
Thank you.
Please fix that.
I almost
So I can
turned
see
it into
going,
a chanced, not in. Okay, I got
I can
this.
see it going on C above the regular jaw, or I can see it in B at the bottom. But
Yeah, I'm okay with B at the bottom because it is essentially the Ya but better. Which the fact that it fixes their senses, which again opens up a whole can of
Yeah, how do they smell?
Yeah.
so
How do they smell?
Look, I have many.
Let's
many
not
words on
go
this.
into
We're
that
not
discussion today.
yeah.
Let's not go into that discussion
It's
today.
not. No, nobody's gonna like it. Let's not get into that discussion ever. We can have that offline. Let's not put it on the podcast. It's a pain, is what it is.
I'm okay with it being bottom tier B. in this case.
Yeah, okay.
I'm okay with that. Okay, going on to the Sukal. This is the Demolisher. Strength, endurance, heat, and cold resistance.
Top of S tier.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'll give it an S tier.
Yeah. In fact, I'm willing to put that in.
Tier.
Yeah, I had a weekend.
Yes.
It is.
And
I'll finish what it said.
Yeah.
It grants the Borak-Kal extremely enhanced strength, enhanced endurance, and resistance to heat and cold. Why would you pick any other at that point?
Why would the Kal chassis not just be rolling entirely with these up until the very end? Like it's 6 Rakshi powers rolled into one.
It's quite literally one of the best.
Yeah, especially depending on what enhanced endurance is supposed to mean, because that's very very difficult to quantify.
We're about to get into this one. The Vu-Kal. This one is your transporter. It has speed and flight. It can transport its Borak-Kal on land or through the air at high speeds. There's no limitations. It's just fast and flies.
That's so good.
That's almost S tier.
Kakahao.
Could we make it S tier? Like that's basically you turn into like 2/3 of Superman.
Yeah, I would put it above the Za, maybe even above the regular Su, because speed versus strength can very much be a toss-up sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, not that we're going out of our way to really rank these based on each other, but it would be a bad idea. Okay. I'm gonna save. Obviously, the Silver Krana-Kal is the last one on the list. We're gonna get into that discussion later. Let's stick to the Za-Kal. This is the Liberator. These Krana awaken the Barag upon physical contact in conjunction with the Nuva Cube. These are the most important of the Krana-Kal.
Lame.
Yeah, like that's even worse than the other one.
Yeah.
I would actually, I would agree and kind of say F, because it is literally just Krana of plot.
It really
also
is.
Physical contact. You have to be right next to it. That is so dumb. I mean, I know it's the whole point of the 2003 story, but
also, how broken is that option? You open up your faceplate and you just chuck the Krana at them. Problem solved. They're awake now. It just says they have to be in physical contact. It doesn't say that they have to be the ones to touch them. It just has to be.
Well, no, but then they would have to be, right? Because if we've established that, the Borak-Va can carry around these Krana-Kal and swap them, I guess they become dormant after you take them out, but we don't know what a dormant Krana-Kal looks like.
True. I imagine that they don't go dormant because they're all sentient to themselves.
Like,
that's true.
What's the point of this one? Like, what's the assumption? So the great beings made the Barag, and we're like, oh man, these things, they're like narcoleptic. We gotta make a Krana-Kal that can like wake them up. Like,
so
what the heck is this thing?
This is the Poke-Flute.
Yeah, but like, why?
It's a glorified alarm clock.
Yeah.
It is.
Hold on. Why can't we just chuck a few of these in Matanui and be done with it?
Yeah.
I'm sure that would totally work.
Just put him in a blender, put him in a shake for him.
Dump it down the Great Temple. It's the perfect plan.
Perfect.
Yeah, Kininui is just over his mouth, so yeah.
I just had a dumb thought. Why don't we just shoot the remove poison at the entire of Metro Nui and remove the virus?
No. Remove poison only said poison and venom. It said nothing about viruses.
We could have thought of everything.
He really did.
I will
just
help
as planned.
I will help create.
Keikaku.
T.O.
All right.
Keikaku be planned.
Let's go on with the Yo-Kal. This little thing is the Excavator. Can sense stress points in the earth, allowing the Borak-Kal to tunnel through the ground more efficiently. It can also sense movement underground movement.
Okay, so this is the thing that I was thinking about with it helps them plan their tunnels better.
Right. So I mean, I guess that has to make it better than the original, but not by much.
It also has that seismic sense thing, which can be pretty useful.
Yes, but I would argue that at that point, the Vu-Call is still a much better mask. Or not, sorry, the Su-Call. That's what I meant to say.
Oh yeah, well definitely. I don't
Wait,
think
hold on, no. What's one that senses? Sorry. What am I thinking of?
The
The Jackal?
Yeah, the Jackal. I'm gonna have to put that up higher because of that. Because that still has radar.
Why? I'd put that
enhanced.
lower.
Would you?
Yeah, because all that is radar. I mean, when you say you can sense underground movement, like that's, I feel like more effective.
I mean, but here's my other argument to that is you're also getting enhanced senses at that point. So you can still hear underground.
I guess we don't want to get into what smelling means.
It doesn't make you Aragorn, where you can put your ear on a rock and know that the orcs have quickened their pace. Whereas I'm not saying that the Jackal is not better than the Oak-Call. I'm saying that the upgrades that you get from the Jackal do not necessarily overturn that seismic sense thing. Because that's like trying to say that Aragorn is better at doing that than Toph is, which is just not how that works.
Right.
And I guess it's also good because it's not like there's like any of the Borak-Call have earth or stone powers. So that fills like a gap, kind of.
That's a good point. I'm going to go ahead and say these are interchangeable with each other, but we'll leave them as they are right now. I think they're on the same level, but they're not on the same level.
Well, so do we maybe want to move the Yo down then to C?
Oh yeah, I'll put that higher than the Ya, but lower than the others. Because the shrinking and enlarging is still very popular, or very, not popular, very powerful thing.
Utility. It's got utility.
Yeah, it's got utility. All of them really have utility. It's just that Su-Call is super broken.
Except everything down in F, but...
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I was saying.
Because F is just plot and or bow. But
and also bow.
Whatever your point
that is correct.
Fine.
All right. We're almost done with these, I swear. It's a good thing I didn't, bother to put a timer, because I know how long we've been going for now. All right, Zakal. This is the Overseer. It has telepathy, limited mind reading, and empathy. Okay, whatever. Why do you need to have it? I mean, I think it meant to say empathic in that regard, but oh no.
It feels really sorry for the Toa Nuva.
It feels really sorry. All right. Communicate telepathically with and read the minds of other beings and sense strong emotions in the immediate area.
Right. So, I mean, that's pretty good.
Hey, that's pretty good. I'm going to put that I would put it just before the Za, my opinion.
It's just an upgrade to the Za. There's nothing that the Za does that this doesn't do or better.
Right, which is why the Za should go down.
Yeah, I think regular Za should go in A, actually, comparatively.
Okay.
It's not better. It's not better than the Kai.
It's not better than the Kai. No. You're right. Which it's sad that was such a downgrade.
I mean, I like that they made them really different, but the poor guy.
Look at how they massacred my boy.
So is the Zakal basically the Deanna Troi of Krana-Kal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense.
Wow.
Useful part of the team.
So when they stole the one from the Tana-Kal, that's effectively speaking, that one was really sensing everything around it. That was the worst part, because that's the one that came from it. So it should have seen the plan coming already. Whatever.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
That's some writing for you. That's all I'm going to say.
Counselor God.
Finally, this is the last one, and this is, I'm not going to say it's controversial, but this is the one that was shoehorned into everything. This is the Silver Krana-Kal. And we know for a fact that it only has one power. All it does is it makes all of its users completely invulnerable to any harm so that it cannot, it could finish its mission.
So, on the one hand, it sounds like that's where the Ka power went as far as the call goes, but it's also incredibly situational. And clearly not immune to being screwed over.
But on the other hand, it's kind of a downgrade of the Ka as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, 'cause
Yeah.
It is overtly situational.
I'd put it lower than the Ka.
I think its situationality is maybe BC.
Yeah, I'd put C. I think kind of straight middle of the road.
I mean,
Yeah, because it's defensive, but it's not really offensive.
right. Honestly, I would put it higher than these for that reason.
Well, and I guess like when we're talking about this pure defensive, like what is the duration? Like, is it as long as the threat is there? Are you waiting for the threat to get bored, give up, and go away?
They very specifically state. I mean, I'm trying to find the information on it because I'm looking at the Krana-Kal page and it's
not there.
Show. Yeah, we know for a fact that this is what it does. So when the Borakal approached success in their task of freeing the Barag, the Krana-Kal turned silver and created a shield which protected them from all harm. But as we know, the Toa were able to stop them because they're not ordinary Toa. They pumped their elemental powers into the symbols,
well,
and that kind of overcharged
them. But wasn't that like after they had? So were they still invulnerable at that point? I guess
they were completely invulnerable. They could not get any harm whatsoever. And this is also when Tahu tried to use the Vahi just to try to slow them down enough. And
right.
It's like, I guess they slowed them down enough to come up with a new plan. Because at that point, they'd already got the silver Krana-Kal. So.
Yeah, and like the timing on that is just very, very convenient. Oh no, we stopped time, but they're invulnerable. If only we'd been like 5 seconds faster.
Right. Oh, if only we had just shot them or something with elements. Or just shot them.
Just shot them. Just pulled out a gun. I know it was like 2 years too early, but just pulled out that gun.
Quick! Somebody use a bamboo disc.
Oh yeah, you guys remember that news report? What was it? 2003, 2002. Bullets were found in a new Anuva canister.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
True story.
I don't know. I feel like that was a hoax at some point. Like I know there was like a whole news article about it, but like, where did the bullets come from? How did they get into the Lego factory? Like nothing about that adds up.
Right.
Well, Walmart. I think Walmart sells bullets too. So
so like, was it like somebody returned the canister and then Walmart was like, put anything into it and stick it back on the shelf?
Yeah, I think something like that.
It sounds like the classic, very early 2000s nonsense shock humor stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit off track. I mean, I know it's semi-relevant to what we were just saying.
And so I pulled out my gun.
All right. So, like with the Kanohi tier, now's the time to decide, where do we want this stuff to go? Do we need to change anything? I'm going to go ahead and open the floor and say that we really shouldn't have to change anything.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with it overall.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
I would actually, never mind. I'm gonna stand for my buddy here and say that Shah needs to go before root poison.
Or just move.
You can. That's fine.
Remove it down. Just like it's so bad, it never gets used.
Just because it got forgotten doesn't mean it's that bad.
Look, I'm going to counter it by pointing out that this was Nuri's disc. Therefore, by definition, it's just worse.
Fine.
by sole definition, I don't make the rules here. It's just anything with Nuri in it, automatically worse.
That does sound like a you rule, if I'm being honest.
It's not my rule, I promised.
Well, I mean, just because he was like worse at it doesn't mean that he was bad.
He was second in all of Metro Nui.
Either way, I don't see anything else we need to really change. Is there?
Actually, move reconstitute random to the bottom of A.
Fine, I'll allow that.
It's just I don't think it's a good disc at all. But if you guys are hellbent on it being an A, then fine.
No, it's pretty good.
I mean, it's an okay disc for what it does. It's not.
It can be an instant win.
Yeah,
99% chance.
I'm just looking at. I'm looking at the Yo. Is there any reason why we can't move it down to just below Za? Is it still very useful? Considering there are 2 Borak that have the ability to also take through things. One through actual digging and the other through sonic pressure.
I mean, I'd move the jaw down, honestly, but
yeah,
I think the jaw could go down. Yeah, I would put it just behind the Za because, well,
But before, because it actually does have a use.
yeah,
that's true. That's
yeah.
true.
Like,
Also,
if you guys
did
just
anybody
count
else
the-
occur that these renders are so close in color? And I know I grabbed the different colors. I know I did.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be.
This
Well, I mean,
is Korok
what is
and
supposed
Tanakh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blue and light blue, similar-ish.
Yeah, like I said, I know I grabbed the right color on the Za.
Contrasting colors.
Right.
I'm surprised that we wound up with so many in S tier, actually, but I'm not going to complain about any of them.
But they're also good.
They are really good.
Like the only one I would say, is it great? I'm gonna probably get thrown out of the call for this, but if anything, I could see us moving weekends down.
Yeah, I was about to say I could see Weekend moving down to A.
Yeah.
To the bottom of S tier, maybe, but not all the way down.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Move it down to the bottom of S tier because the other.
I mean, I really do think Weekends is good, but I can see the argument it being not as great as the Krana bits.
It can be used to bring down structures. That's already a really cool thing. Could you imagine if they had a bunch of these taking out, like the Visrock towers, for example? That would have been useful.
Yeah.
Oh, Weekend. I thought you meant like Saturday and Sunday. Oh, that makes more sense.
Boo.
I would swap Ka and regenerate with each other because COD is
significantly much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this list. Is anybody else upset with this?
No, it looks good to me.
Yeah.
All right.
We have successfully roasted, removed poison. My job here is complete. It's taken 16 years to finish my work, and now it's done. It's been roasted to a crisp. Perfect.
Oh man! All right, and with that, I think this is our list. So, do you agree with this list? Obviously, you don't have to, but this is ours. Feel free to share ours, or share ours. Share our link to everybody.
Do it.
No.
Do it.
Feel free to share your list. I mean, maybe you have a different opinion. Maybe you are a person that loves removes poison. If you are, I'm not sure who you are, but I would like to know more about what's wrong with you.
I don't want to know anything about them, actually.
Yeah, you don't even need a disc that removes poison. All you got to do is you cross a fire sword and an ice sword and do some water magic. It does the trick. Like, you don't even need this.
And more to the point, you just need a toe of air to hold the sword.
Yeah, like, you don't even need fire, honestly.
All you need is a toe of ice and some water, and maybe somebody holding a sword, I guess.
And a nice babbling brook nearby.
That was just for the ambiance.
No, critical to the process. You clearly misunderstood.
And with that, I think we are wrapping up. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to follow us on the social medias. Check out our Discord. We just launched it. Link will be on the screen here. Obviously, you can just join at any time. Try to adhere to the rules, please, because, we have rules. And, this has been Swert.
Dorek.
KZN02.
Spirit.
And Lehari.
Thanks for joining us.